just not having a plan, because the not having a plan basically already puts us behind. So not really knowing what we're doing and then losing time in the market with that message, I think is a huge thing. I also think focusing solely on, like I said, on price. If you're only focused on price, I don't think that's always the greatest thing. Like I think we've kind of alluded to this a couple times, and Erin just mentioned, like, everybody is very budget conscious. And I think you can let your website do that. If you are properly merchandised and you have the prices on your site, we want to, from a creative standpoint, we want to generate the interest in going to your site. What is the message that gets them to your site? And everybody knows they're going to pay about the same everywhere, right? So at this point, what else can we give them that makes them want to come to your website? I think
that's where the why buys come in, right?
Yeah.
And then also, as far as the why buys and the creative and everything that we're putting together, from the branding and the messaging, wants to be consistent in the merchandising, right? Like, how does the merchandising and the creative work together to showcase everything so that you have that consistent message? I think is, where you're running these messages and you're using your why buys, and then you come to the website and you can't find anything on the website or actually inside the dealership that ties everything together about what you're doing. So you're fragmented there, right?
100%. We don't want to be saying there's this big thing going on at the dealership and then the website doesn't reflect that, or when somebody walks in to your store, that it doesn't look like anything's going on. It's just a normal day. Yeah.
That goes all the way to call scripts from the people answering the phones, right? So I think that's super important.
So Corrine,
Mazzoni, anything you want to add?
I do. So, and you said it's somewhat tongue in cheek, but it's true, right? Like, one of the pitfalls is not having a plan. But I think another thing that we've all seen is deviating from the plan or abandoning the plan prematurely. I think there can be times where we've seen dealers that maybe panic a bit if the month doesn't start off as strong. And I feel like there's times where the more we tinker and the more that we try to deviate from what the plan was, it can actually hurt us in the end. So I think there is a discipline to staying committed to what the plan was and what's in place. That doesn't mean that you can't pivot and make adjustments. I'm talking about more of the, pulling the plug or completely switching tactics when we already have some things that are laid in. I would say that's one of the other pitfalls that I've seen, though.
Gotcha. So let's switch back over to digital, and we'll continue on the topic of pitfalls a little bit. So, Erin, what are some of the pitfalls that you see dealers fall into when it comes to analyzing and optimizing their media mix for Q4? Like, are there some best practices that they want to take a look at to make sure that they have the correct media mix for all of their campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely. We have got a few different things that we look at when analyzing media mix. I think the first big pitfall is not considering the full funnel. So let me go ahead and share my screen. We have got
images,
the marketing funnel here that takes into consideration all of the popular products that dealers typically enable at their dealership to sell vehicles. So we have taken all of these popular campaigns and products and filtered it for this funnel. So I think a lot of times dealers just typically think about like paid search, social, and third parties and what these things are doing for them, when there is so much more in their media mix that they can activate to drive more traffic to their site. So when we're thinking about reviewing the media, we just need to make sure that everybody understands like where your budget is focused. So one thing that I would consider is just making sure that there's enough budget for your awareness tactics like display, traditional or connected TV, radio or connected radio, anything that is going to increase that brand and dealership awareness and recognition in the market. And then another big thing I'm seeing is, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, like the lack of retention. So we spend so much money driving traffic to the sites, but how are we staying in front of them during their shopping journey? So we have got another slide here that just shows a breakout of awareness, performance, influence and retention, and third-party marketplaces. So when we're considering like, how are we filling up the funnel? How are we maximizing this media mix? We want to make sure that we've got about like 20 to 40% of the budget in awareness, 20 to 50% of that budget in performance, and 15 to 30% in influence and retention. So staying in front of those shoppers. And then we're talking about third parties, which can be a anxious topic to discuss with dealers. We want to make sure that the budget's staying about 10 to 15%. So I know that this is a guide and nothing is going to be exact to these goals here, but this is an ideal breakout. So you have enough traffic in the top of the funnel and then filtered all the way down so we get as many conversions as possible. So we can have this handout available after this call.
Nice.
If it helps, you know, dealers group their budgets into specific categories and start looking at how everything is lining up. But I would just make sure that you have got enough budget in these 4 categories to cover your inventory goals, all of your dealership goals for the rest of the year. And then also just making sure that your site has enough quality leads and your sales team has enough quality leads to go on.